community. Great to be hanging out with you on this Friday. If we haven't met before, my name is Megan, and I do a lot of the onboarding and webinars and just making sure we're staying in touch with our community here at MeetEdgar. And we're really excited today because we have a special guest for you in our shortcut series that we're going to focus on chatting with Kate Beaters about social media mindset. And she is a wealth of resources when it comes to this. And she is a coach who speaks on this topic and has given many keynotes on it. So you are in for quite a treat today. So I'll pass it over as the last few people start to trickle on in here to Kate to kind of introduce herself and let us know who's here in the chat. I see Jess popping on in. So let us know you can hear us okay, where you're tuning in from, and what you're hoping to get out of the session today as Kate starts to introduce herself.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. And if you haven't met Megan directly, Megan is awesome. I'm just giving her a little pitch right there because she makes the whole process just so easy. So thanks, Megan. I'm really excited about this. So just a little bit about me is I came out of the corporate world. I was doing business development, which the way we interpret it was all about getting new clients. So much like an entrepreneur, and I know a lot of your clients are or probably the majority are entrepreneurs, was not given a list. It's just like, okay, go out and sell, go bring in some business. And I had to learn how to do it. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I had to learn how to get clients, how to have sales conversations, how to figure out magic price points, how to talk about money, how to overcome objections, how to get repeat business, how to get referrals, and then keep these clients. Many I kept for like 15, 16 years until I became an entrepreneur. And the thing I didn't know, and this is why I'm really excited about our topic, is that when I was in corporate, it was all about working hard and working smart as well, right? It's just like, you come to work early, we'd be in at 6 a.m. and we'd stay late and work on the weekends and all sorts of stuff, right? It's like, how hard can you push yourself? Much like an entrepreneur, it's like, how much can we work? And what I've learned in my expertise of mindset, that it really, yes, you do have to work. So I'm not saying you don't have to work, but really what's the chitter chatter in your brain is really going to make a big difference in if you're successful or not successful. And that is actually more important than whether you're putting in, a 60-hour week or 80-hour week or whatever. Because if you're telling yourself stories, if you've got beliefs that you aren't good enough or that people won't like it or it's too scary, things like that, you will just stop yourself short. So that's what I love to teach, along with some strategies too. Today's we're focusing mostly on mindset, which is great, but just so people understand that that's, that really you're often the only reason that you're not doing as much as you want. But once you understand it, and this is the cool part, Megan, is that once people get awareness, it just then allows them to have choices, because then they can say, okay, I realize, I'm doing this. And then they can say, do I want to keep doing it or do I want to find a different option? So again, I'm really excited about what comes up today, what we talk about. And I wrote down some notes, but whatever anybody wants to talk about, I'm here. So.
Yeah, I love that so much, especially this idea of small business owners and entrepreneurs, that we have to be problem solvers and keep those options open and really think, how can I progress to get better than I was today and to really get that 1% upgrade till tomorrow? And that mindset is so important to stay consistent and make sure that you're pushing through where others might quit. And it really does come down to having that kind of why and having that mindset set up properly. And I know social media especially can be challenging for that, because you can put something out there, you can have your hard work in your status updates, and then you can hear crickets or you cannot see the traffic direct to your site. So how do you stay consistent through that? What tips have you really
and I'm so glad you brought that up, because consistency is key. You all, like, if anyone hasn't listened to Edgar University, please go ahead and do yourself a favor and listen to it, because really, really great tips on there. And one of the big things you all talk about is keeping consistent. So if you've got these beliefs, and I want to just call out some of the beliefs, because maybe people will go like, oh yeah, or I didn't realize that let's say you post something, maybe it's a quote, maybe it's a graphic, whatever the heck it is, or it's a video blog, and you just don't get the response. And so you start sitting there going, well, like you said, you get the crickets. Well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I have no place on it. Maybe you give yourself 1 or 2 more times, but then when you start seeing you're not getting the big response, and you look over, and see, oh, this one's getting this one, and this one's getting this thing, and this one's getting that thing. And then you start getting into playing that game of comparing yourself to others, that you aren't going to have the consistency. So a couple of mindset things you really want to think about is, first of all, swim in your own lane, right? And that's something really, really important, because often I found from a lot of my clients that, I remember one new client, she was doing, it's on social media, but she was doing a new website, and she was afraid to put her website live because she looked at all these fancy websites. And she's like, mine just doesn't look like that. And I said, yeah, but you didn't see the original revision, the original, edition of it, that this is like maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times it's been redone. And the same with social media, that if you're comparing yourself to people who have lots and lots of likes and comments and things like that, that you don't know what they went through before. You're only seeing today, and you have no idea that they could have done 50,000 posts and again, crickets. So it's, first thing is really, really critical. Stay in your own lane. Now, I'm not saying don't look to see what others do, because maybe, you get some good ideas and stuff like that, but don't judge, because we all know too, social media, and Megan, you can speak better to this than I can, is the algorithms constantly change. This thing, Instagram's now not showing likes. I mean, everything is just constantly changing. So if you play that game that about being the most popular, you're really gonna get yourself stuck. So what you really want to do is really just think about, like, why am I posting this? What's the intention? Is it because it's all in sales? And I don't know if you all have talked about this before, but in sales and in acquiring clients, which is why really people are posting on social media, is because ultimately they want to bring in clients. It's all about know, like, and trust. And so if you aren't posting, nobody's ever going to get to know you. And if you post really infrequently, they're not going to get to like you or trust you. So it's really, really critical that you do this, and just understand that the more you keep doing it and the more you kind of start finding your own voice, the more likely you are to get responses.
I love that so much. And just kind of going back a little to what you were saying with the algorithms changing and removing likes and stuff, I find that on social media especially, those are some of the times that you can get your positive mindset in this fact that, when changes happen, that's when you can take a deeper look into your business and find, what do I control in this area? What can I actually do to change things around? Because if we're doing the same things over and over, it's likely we're going to get the same results. And it's this idea that if we keep doing the same thing, what got us here isn't going to get us to the further idea. So like with Instagram removing likes, how can you switch that around and really put yourself in this position of say, okay, how can my strategy change? Maybe I haven't changed my strategy and I've been really gaining likes way more than I've been focusing on actually getting people to my site or getting more clients and stuff. So looking at it as an opportunity rather than looking at it as kind of like everything is against me can be really helpful to get creative within these constraints. Because oftentimes I find when we're constrained in life, that's when our creativity and our outside of the box thinking can really come through. And kind of what you were saying, it's finding your own voice, because that is what really makes your followers and your people who need you to be there for them and show up consistently, trust you the most over the competition that they might be able to find elsewhere to satisfy their pain points and to really get their products and service met. So it's bringing that unique voice in. And I'd love to kind of touch on a little bit more how you find kind of testing these audiences and really getting that sort of unique voice to resonate with the people you're trying to reach the most.
Yeah, so a couple things. I want to talk about that, but can I just go back to something you mentioned?
Of course you can.
One thing you were talking about, like the definition by Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting different results. So one thing about the subconscious mind, and we all have our subconscious mind. We're in it about 75, 80, 85% of the time. That's how we do things on autopilot. That's how we do our patterns. That's where all our fears, doubts, old stories pop up. Now, the thing is that our subconscious mind doesn't really know what's real and what's not real. So, Megan, have you ever been to one of those amusement rides where they have a big kind of screen in front of you and you're sitting down, like you're sitting, and maybe it looks like as if you're on a roller coaster type thing? And have you ever been on one and you feel like you're dropping down when technically you aren't moving anywhere? And I've been on some that, honest to goodness, I look down and I even try to move the chair and the chair is bolted down, yet my stomach has just taken a dive. So if everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? Well, that's because your subconscious mind doesn't know what's real and what's not really. All your subconscious mind is seeing that you're on this roller coaster going like this, those the deep dives, and it doesn't know what's true or not true. So you can trick your subconscious mind that, especially now on Instagram, where you're not, I don't know if it's taken over for everybody yet or they're doing it in segments, but when you don't see how many likes, you can tell yourself you're getting however many likes you want, because your subconscious mind doesn't know. And if that's going to help you move forward, then why not, right? Tell yourself you're getting 100, you're 1,000, a million likes. It doesn't hurt anybody. If that's going to give you more confidence, that's really, really important. But then on the flip side, back to answer your question, is that I don't know if this in speaking, I speak all over North America, I keynote a lot, and they have what they call like an A/B audience. An A audience is when you give a really good presentation, people at the end like are patting your back. Oh, that was so great, Kate, that was awesome, and thanks so much. And they walk out and they don't even remember your name after they walked out the door, right? But it was good, it was non-offensive, and was like, yeah, that was fun and all that, but they don't think about you, and more than likely they're not going to buy your services because you're very generic. Okay, so what a B audience is when you start sharing your point of view, Megan. And so people are going to sit there and go, like, some people are going to go, like, Megan, you might be sitting there going, maybe that's how they do in the East Coast, but we don't do that here in Colorado, or whatever, that people, have their own thing of how you look at it. But that's good because the people who really like it, they will resonate. And then those are the people who are going to buy from you. And it's okay if you piss some people off, if they go like, because you want to eliminate some of those people. Why do you don't just want hangers on. You want the people that go like, oh my gosh, I love what Megan just posted. It just spoke to me and it helped me do such and such today, or I loved her video or whatever. That's what you want, because then they're sitting there going, I want to follow her and I want to see how I can work with her. Instead of trying to be so generic. So the thing I do want to talk about mindset, just to answer your thing, is don't also, like I was saying, you can pretend whatever number you get, but also don't get so caught up with the numbers, because you'd really and truly rather have a smaller amount of people who go like, oh my gosh, I love you and I'm loyal to you and I will buy whatever you're selling. And also, not to get into a political conversation, but we do know that we've heard a lot of people in politics have a lot of bots and stuff like that they're not even real things. So, you don't even know, if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, you don't even know how many of them are real and not real, Their mother, father, sister, brother, maybe their cat liked it. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, I find this idea of making sure you're attracting the right people and not being afraid to repel the wrong people really hard sometimes.
It is.
You want to be a people pleaser, especially when it comes to your business, because you imagine that, the more people and the more followers, that means the better it's going to be for your business. But when it comes down to it, if your followers are not engaged, and if they're not the ones who are brand advocates and they're out there, like you mentioned, if you're going to sell anything or recommend anything at all, they trust you 100%, it actually might hurt your social media quite a bit with the way that the algorithms are changing, because people want to see that they are engaged and they want to see comments and they want to see them sharing your stuff. And if it comes down to you just focusing on those followers who aren't going to be your true fans, who are advocating for you all over the place, that kind of skews this idea that if you have 1 million followers, but you're not getting the likes out of it, the algorithms see that and the social networks see that. So kind of, again, being able to flip your mind and having that confidence, like you mentioned, even if it's just you pretending like you have 1 million followers, asking yourself that question, if I had 1 million followers, how would I show up for them? And doing the things that will set you up for success when you get there can be so important. And I just really find that kind of how you are harping on making sure you're talking to the right people can give you that confidence, because you'll see that feedback.
Well, also to Megan, and what you said is right on. And also to add is that, when I teach my clients about charging what they're worth, and I say to them, if you come across as a commodity, right? And you look on Facebook or any of those social media, there's 1 million motivational quotes, right? But if you look like a commodity and you're just posting the same stuff as everybody else, there's no reason for them to buy from you. And then if they decide, hey, you know what, I'll give Megan a chance, and your pricing's a little bit high, they don't notice the difference. And it's kind of like when people saying, I don't know how much of your audiences are actual customers of MeetEdgar or some just on because this is a free lesson. But it's like for people to pay and use MeetEdgar, they have to see value in it. So if you sound just like everybody else, if you're not willing to kind of be a little edgy and say, like, this is what I believe, this is what I stand for, and it's okay if not everybody wants it, that's cool. But for the people who really do, I am so right for you and I'm going to help you get the results you want. That's how you want to come off.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you have any tips for finding that unique voice for you? Like any exercises that you find people are able to do to really zone in on that kind of brand voice that sets them apart really well?
Yeah, what I find is a lot of times my best quotes or most popular things are something that I had a conversation with somebody. And, when I'm just talking and there's no audience and I'm just talking like one-on-one with you, and and I talk about being in the zone of brilliance, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that was so good. I have to write that down, and you start, if you start feeling that, so you almost have to get kind of quiet and listen. But when you're, for the audience, like when you're out networking, you're having a conversation with a client and you're like, oh my gosh, this is gold. That's the stuff you want to be posting about on social media, because that starts, and when, especially when your client on the other end is resonating with it, that's the stuff that starts letting people know like who exactly you are and what you do that makes you wonderful.
Ooh, yeah, I like that idea of taking it to the real world. You could even do things like ask your family and friends, what do you think of? What traits do you think of when you think of me? So that they can kind of shed some light of things that you might not realize, what things come naturally that people ask you questions about all the time. And these things all go into your brand, even if they're not directly related with your business. So I love that idea of asking people in the real world to kind of zone in and really get your confidence set on who you are as a brand that way.
Yeah, and it's also about letting people get to know you. One thing I wrote down here just to kind of make sure we touch on is perfectionism. And that's really big, especially for women. I'm not saying it's not big for guys, but especially for women, because back to what you were saying earlier about this need to be liked, which is, a very, very basic core issue that, people feel like it has to be perfect. Like I have to have people post it and people go like, oh my God, I love that, or I love that blog, or I love that video. And it's being okay to know that, first of all, you know how social media is. You could post like the best video in the world or best blog, whatever. Doesn't mean you're going to get immediate responses. I mean, seriously, I posted some really great things, and it's like crickets for 12, 24 hours. And then all of a sudden I look at it and it's like, oh my gosh, like, was it closed down? Now it's suddenly it's open, like everybody's liking it. So it's being able to kind of be willing to be imperfectly perfect, and also let people see a little bit again who you are, because back to that whole know, like, and trust, and why they should buy from you, which is really the bottom line of why anybody's using social media, except for just friendly connections, but that's not why they would be using a MeetEdgar, is they got to see who you are, and people like to buy from people that they resonate with, that they understand and they get. If anyone looks at my page, you'll see I've got a 15-year-old girl, Callie. She's a Cairn Terrier, and I'm always posting stuff about her. And I mean, people love it. They, people have actually like messaged me like, I love this stuff. So it's a way of me kind of, in some ways, getting my message across, but kind of going through Callie as well, because that's who I am.
That is so important. And that phrase, imperfectly perfect, I think could be a good one to keep in your mind, to make sure that you're realizing that the days of a perfectly curated feed are completely over, because people don't relate to that. Our lives aren't perfect.
That's right.
And it goes back to that idea that to build trust, people have to see themselves in your story. You have to present your story as a way that they're like, oh yeah, she's relatable to me. And relatable means real life stuff. And if you're afraid to kind of get on camera or show your face and stuff like that, test it out in your stories on Facebook or on Instagram to get really this idea that, okay, at least it's only going to last for 24 hours, and get more comfortable with it. Because the more that the way social media is going is this idea that, if I am able to see myself in your story, I'm going to trust you a lot faster. And the way
that's right.
Trust in real life is, making eye contact with people, seeing your face, not just having your social media be a logo. And I think that's so important for us to test out as marketers, is showing our face and getting that eye connection. People are used to buying from people in person until the internet came along.
Yeah.
And still take those concepts that work so well as a salesperson and bring them into our social media when we're talking to people. And again, with your example with the dog, I love that idea of saying, whenever someone sees a terrier out in the world, they might think of you. Your brand might pop into their head because you've made that a sticky point and a sticky subject for them. So I think that's such a good idea to think about what you can bring into your real world. I know a lot of marketers do that quite a bit. And I think that's a really cool strategy to take on.
Yeah, because whenever people, I travel a lot, I've got Callie, whenever people see me, where I'm speaking, whatever, that's how we're able to kind of create a quick connection, because they'll ask me, how's Callie, or how's this, or how's that. Now, the flip side, I also want to tell people to be cautious. I've also seen people go on social media and it's almost like, here's everything, right? And I caution you, be careful, because sometimes can be kind of too much and almost push somebody away. So you want to let them see you, but do you know what I'm talking about, Megan? Have you ever seen when people sit there and the tears and the Kleenex, and it's like, oh, my life is a mess, and hoping to get people to connect, and sometimes that can be a little bit overboard. But what you're also saying about connecting with eyes and all that is that also the voice is extremely important. And so people like to hear your voice too. They like to know, like, who am I connecting with? What does this person sound like? And I know a lot of people get intimidated with Facebook Live and all that, and so I tell clients, start a video, then do a video first, because in that way you get to practice and, hear what you're looking like and see all this and understand that all your mannerisms are going to be who you are in the beginning, and not till you've done it for a while will you be able to, kind of work on them, improve, and decide what you want to change and not change.
Yeah, gosh, I love that idea of being careful with what you're vulnerable with, not the stuff that you're going through right now. That's really still an open wound and really painful, and that's going to kind of make people feel like you're oversharing or uncomfortable. But looking back on the lessons of what got you here and what you can share of the kind of struggles you went through that have been healed and that you learned a lesson from, and those things are much more valuable, because you're setting your followers up to get a little kind of mentorship from you and educating people and kind of being the person to say, let me save you time and teach you this lesson that I learned. And these are the mistakes that I made, and this is how I improved from them. That's the sort of ability that's going to get people to say, okay, I trust that this person is a real person who goes through the same stuff that I do and has the same struggles that I do, but look how they've moved on and progressed from there. And you're helping them kind of learn from your mistakes so they don't have to reinvent the wheel and go through the same things you do, but you're not oversharing about stuff you're going through now and having that kind of woe is me. So walking that line on social media can be a little hard to discover, but I definitely recommend thinking back on some of the stories, some of the things that have gone wrong, sharing your failures and what you learned from them. So not just being vulnerable with your failures, but taking it a step further, because every post you put out there should be couched in this idea that, how is this set up for my followers, not for me? It's not your place to go out there and kind of say, oh, this is my therapy session. It's how am I sharing this in order to help my followers? And that mindset can help you share your failures and that kind of behind the scenes content in a really useful way, I find.
Exactly. And those are really good points, because when you do it too soon, you're caught up in your story.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people, depending on culturally where they came from, because I know you have international clients, that a lot of times they were taught like you can't brag because bragging is bad and that means you've got a big ego. So it's also about learning how you can, and that's kind of a gradual thing, Megan, honestly, like when we're talking about being authentic and finding your voice, is that no one's going to sit there and go like, la, and just start, here I am. And, you have to kind of step into it. And as you get really clear on your why, like why you're doing this, like why you have your business and why it's so important that people know who you are and how you can help them, that helps also strengthen you internally. And as there are things you can do too, like before you do a Facebook Live, is get your energy up. People think they should like meditate, and it's like, no, that brings your energy down unless you're doing a Facebook Live or video on yoga or something, or meditation. But otherwise, like do a dance party, get your energy up. And everybody's going to be different. If you're not a really funny person, don't be telling jokes on, because that's not who you are. Be who you are, so people can connect with that.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, just knowing yourself so inside and out. That is so perfect. So we are coming up, guys, on our 20-minute shortcut session here, but I'd love to hear if you guys have any last few questions for Kate. Put them in the chat. We'll make sure we get those answered. And Kate, if you have any kind of last parting words, we definitely want to respect your all's time and make sure that we're keeping these nice and short, but also getting these questions answered and wrapping on up. So pop your questions in there. And Kate, do you have any kind of last final advice you want to share?
Yeah, so one thing I teach that I think is really important is about deliberately creating. We can all be busy, but busy doesn't always get you anywhere. So really, like, set an intention, like let's say for this next quarter, next 3-4 months, what is it that you really want to accomplish with your social media? And start thinking, so who do I need to be to get this to accomplish? Because again, remember, your subconscious mind doesn't know what's real or false. So who do you need to be? Again, I'm not talking about being fake, and I'm not talking about lying, but if you can see this, it's already, I teach laws of attraction. And so for those of you who know about it, it's already there. It's already something that wants to come out. If you can, start seeing it in your mind, it's meant to come out. So start showing up in that, and what kind of posts do you need to have to get that message across? By post, I mean like blog, video, Facebook Live, whatever, but really start deliberately creating, whatever it is that you want.
Yeah, I love that idea. So we've got a couple of questions coming on in. I'd
Okay.
love to get your kind of feedback for just a question on, should you only share
Sure.
your edgier content in your groups if her parents and her kids are on the same social platform? So how do you kind of walk that line of saying, do I want this content that might not be relatable to, or that might not be appropriate for my parents and kids to see? Do I want to share that on my personal profile to build a personal brand versus sharing this in my groups with only kind of my tribe? I've got a couple thoughts on it, but I'd love to hear yours first, kind of where you go with that.
Yeah, so our family and our friends and all that see us in a certain way, and it's their story of who we are. So you got to be aware of that if you start talking about stuff that they don't typically talk about, and they're going to see it, understand that, and be able to protect yourself and your energy, because the last thing you want is for you to be like, hey, I want to teach this, and you feel all excited, and then someone pops a bubble and bursts it. So, just be prepared. And what you may want to do personally, I probably block some of that stuff. You know how you can post and you can just do groups and, create all that kind of stuff. I probably do that more in the beginning till I felt really comfortable with it. And then as I started creating like a protective boundary around myself, and that therefore when other people said stuff, it wouldn't bother me, then I would start opening it up to everybody.
Yeah,
And that takes time, Megan. But what I see people do so often is they'll get a great idea, and then they tell their mother, father, sister, brother, whomever, and the person just goes, phew, and then they don't do it anymore.
yeah, that is such a good idea to kind of keep that protection in this space where we're already being kind of judged all the time on social media, and the judgment
Hmm.
from those we care about the most can sometimes get in our heads the most, of this idea that if someone says, why are you doing that, it's hard to push through. So I would say, Jess, exactly what Kate said. Just make sure, if you're someone who knows that that is going to stop your motivation by having your family and friends see that and perhaps not think of that you're doing the right thing, you have to know that your idea and your business model and your why of why you started your entire business and your content strategy has to keep going. And it takes a few years to build up a business. And that consistency can be hard when people are kind of harping on you that they don't think you're doing the right thing. So I think it's just about knowing kind of how you can handle it. And if you are able to tune it out when people kind of say, hey, why are you doing this? Perhaps you could start sharing on your personal brand in that way too. Cool. So one more question from Mike here, who is a travel agent, and asks what your favorite social media platform is.
Facebook. It used to be LinkedIn, but it's been Facebook the last couple of years. LinkedIn, I just find has changed a lot. So I would say Facebook. I find more connectivity.
That's a really great kind of idea too with this. Where is your audience most active and most kind of connected to you, and not taking it from like just what you read online of like, oh, LinkedIn is the only place you can get organic reach anymore. And that's true. They're changing things up and they're becoming much more of a social platform. But if your community is most active on Twitter or is most active on Facebook, that's what you want to focus on. Using a tool like Edgar, our idea of amplifying your content out everywhere, it's definitely something that we like to make sure that you are doing to get people to consume your content where they like to hang out the most. So using a social media tool like MeetEdgar can help with that, because you only have to load it into your library once and you can send it out everywhere. However, you can kind of optimize your content for the platform your main core audience hangs out on. So for us, Twitter, for MeetEdgar, is one of the places that our audience is most active. They like to keep up with social media news, do chats with us there. So a lot of our content is tailored to go to Twitter, but we still amplify it out to LinkedIn and to Facebook so people can consume it there. But we really play to the network strengths on Twitter, because that's where our community likes to communicate the most. So I think it's just finding out, where do people hang out with the most. For a travel agent, I imagine it can be something like Instagram and Facebook quite a bit more than Twitter, just because it's such a visual place where people like to see those inspirational photos and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's just kind of doing the work to see in your insights where your customers are hanging out, where your tribe really likes to communicate with you to find that stuff out. Yeah, Matt, awesome point. You just really love engaging people with where they are. I think that is the perfect mindset to have when you're looking into where you put your energy for social media.
Megan, there's one thing I just want
Yeah,
to bring up just before we go, because I know we're almost out of time, or we are out of time, is gratitude on social media,
yeah,
because that's for a mindset thing. And I actually wrote a blog about it this week, and just I was talking about different ways of showing gratitude, not your typical ways, but on social media, everything is, well, and just in life, everything is energy. And everyone's worried about, like, how many likes will I get? Will I get comments? Will I get shares? And so what I want to suggest to you is you be that person to start liking people's posts, to comment on people's posts, and for bonus points, share their posts, because everything's energy. And if you see somebody wrote a blog you really enjoy, or you really found their quote wonderful, or their video you thought was fabulous, tell them, let them know, like, specifically, I loved because you actually told me how to do it, as opposed to just smiling, whatever. Let them know, like, why you love it, and share it, because honestly, everything's energy. So the more you do that stuff, the more it'll come back to you, that people will start doing the same thing for you.
absolutely. Gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's about collaborating and making sure that you are supporting your community just as much as you want
Mm-hmm.
your community to support you. That is such a good point there. All right, guys. So if you are looking to continue this conversation, I'd love for you to pop on over to Twitter or Instagram at MeetEdgar and at Kate Beaters. Go ahead and tag us there if you want to continue the discussion, and we're more than happy to do that. Go check out Kate's site if you do want to have any more contact with her. KateBeaters.com, I believe, is what it is.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
If you're not a MeetEdgar user and you wanted to try out a social media automation tool, we are giving away a free month for you all who joined today. All you have to do is put in the code shortcuts right there as you sign up for MeetEdgar and get that free month. Or you can always email support@meetedgar.com if you want to learn more about automation. Like I said, tag Kate and I on Instagram and Twitter to keep the discussion going. And thanks so much for joining today. And thanks for your expertise, Kate. This was really fun.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks, Megan. And bye, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday for those who celebrate.
Perfect. Bye, guys.